Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Blue Turtle Management and Consulting web-based forum. My name is Ian, and during today's episode we're going to address the number one problem associated with negotiating architectural design fees. That problem is, what do you do when your client asks you to lower your fee? We'll also take a brief look at what the term negotiating against yourself really means. We'll discuss the number 7 and explain why it's important. We'll review a psychological theory known as anchoring, which is possibly one of the most important negotiation tools out there. And we'll also take a quick look at the Architect's Guide to Negotiations. Now, for the benefit of this episode, we're going to assume that clients are reviewing your proposal from an economic standpoint only, getting no consideration for your firm's design abilities or experience. So before we discuss how to respond to requests to lower fees, let's just first address the steps that lead up to a fee negotiation. You see, the negotiation process really begins when you provide your initial proposal. It's at this point that you have the opportunity to set yourself up for success and then open up negotiation opportunities. Now, I've seen many smaller architectural firms submit proposals that include just one number, which is their fee. This is usually justified by them by saying something like that's all their clients want to see or that's all their clients want to receive. But I do not recommend doing this, and I'll tell you why. Even when working on small projects or when working with clients that only expect one number fee proposals, avoid the temptation to provide just one number. When writing fee proposals, make sure you include separate numbers for fees, separate numbers for expenses, separate numbers for payment schedules, and separate numbers for the hourly charge-out rates associated with variation requests and additional work. Now, there are several reasons for doing this. Firstly, because if you only provide one number, there's only one number to negotiate. It makes it harder for you to invent options for mutual gain, which is part of a negotiation strategy that we'll talk about more later on. Secondly, humans find it very difficult to remember numbers. So when they're reviewing proposals from a number of architectural firms, research shows that in an effort to try and simplify the process, they will try and measure apples for apples. This means that they are most likely to focus on what they perceive to be the most important number first and leave the other numbers for later. This is confirmed in part by the psychological research paper called The Magical Number 7, published in 1956 by George Miller. In this research paper, Miller concludes that the number of objects an average human can hold in working memory is 7 plus or minus 2. Now this gives you, the architect, an opportunity to put your most desirable proposal together, knowing that most of it will not be reviewed until you're at the negotiation table. You can, of course, still provide that one fee number that the client will be looking for, but just make sure that you provide other numbers also, which leads me to my third point. So thirdly, once you get to the negotiation table, if you have provided the additional numbers for things like expense costs, mobilization payments, payment schedules, and charge-out rates for additional work, then according to research completed by Adam D. Galinsky, if you are the author of the numbers to be negotiated, you'll be in a stronger position. Now, Galinsky's research confirms that the person making the first offer when negotiating in situations of ambiguity and uncertainty, such as design fees, for example, gains a big advantage. This is because the way people perceive a particular offer's value is highly influenced by any relevant number that has recently entered into the negotiation. The first offer will typically be the anchor from which all subsequent offers are adjusted. So by getting your offer on the table first, you'll have much more influence over the final agreed numbers. Now, this psychological theory is known as anchoring, and it's widely used in all types of negotiation situations. And finally, the reason you should include multiple numbers in your fee proposals is because you must get into the habit of providing payment schedules. As discussed in episode 2, cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. Even if you agree a great headline fee, it's when you get paid that's really, really important. Now, according to Dun & Bradstreet credit experts, 90% of small business failures are caused by poor cash flow. That is a staggering statistic, so let's just say it again. 90% of small business failures are caused by poor cash flow. Because cash flow is so important, make sure you include a payment schedule in all of your proposals, even when working on small projects, even if your proposals are simple one-page letter, and be prepared to negotiate the terms of payment because it's really important to you. So now that we are familiar with the numerical limitations of the human mind, the psychological theory known as anchoring, and the importance of cash flow, let's get back to the original question. What do you do when asked to lower your fee? So, you may have heard of a term called negotiating against yourself. Many negotiators talk about it and write about it. You can see here on the Harvard Business Review website that when advising on how to negotiate effectively, the second suggestion is don't negotiate against yourself. But what does that really mean? And more importantly, are you able to spot it when it happens? Are you able to advise colleagues when you witness a negotiating against yourself situation? So for the benefit of all, to demonstrate what negotiating against yourself scenario might be, let's use an example from Chapter 2 of the Architect's Guide to Negotiations. Now, incidentally, this example is based on what I've actually witnessed on a number of occasions while working at Foster & Partners in London. So this really does happen even in large architectural firms. So here's the example. So you present your client with a fair proposal, and they call you up and say something like, I really want to hire your firm, but you'll have to sharpen your pencil before we can make this happen. So you, as the architect, are really quite happy. You've just had a call from a client and they said that they want to work with your firm. That's good news, right? Everybody likes good news and wants to believe that they have just won a new job. So in a fit of euphoria, you follow your client's instructions and thinking that you're one step away from a new project, you lower your fee. Then you send your proposal back to the client. Upon receipt of the revised proposal, the client calls you up again and says, you're getting closer, however, you'll still need to do a little better if you'd like the job. And so the scenario keeps repeating itself. The more time you invest, the more you think or want to believe the project is yours. You continue to lower your fee until you reach your lowest possible number and are forced to say no. At that point, the client either takes your number and shops it to a competing firm or asks to meet with you in an effort to get one last concession before agreeing the proposal. Now, it's not unusual to be left feeling resentful and upset by the whole negotiation experience. If you work in a large firm and have to report back to a supervisor, then this type of situation has the potential to be twice as humiliating. Because no doubt after the first phone call, you had already informed everyone that you've just won a new job, when in actual fact you hadn't. So what went wrong? Well, the reason so many of us either fail to recognize or fail to respond appropriately to this tactic is because not only do most of us lack negotiation experience, but we are usually always too consumed by other issues. We are either worried about winning new work and keeping our jobs, or we're excited about the project and already designing the building in our minds, or we just find the whole negotiation process really uncomfortable and prefer to appease our clients rather than address an uncomfortable situation. However, this mistake from an architectural point of view can be a very costly one, but it's easily avoidable. So let's look at how to manage the question and the situation more effectively. It's been my experience that a good negotiation is all about three issues. It's about building a relationship, understanding the other side's interests, and demonstrating a commitment to the project by suggesting options that benefit both parties. So the first thing you'll want to do when asked to lower your fee, the first thing you'll want to do is not to take it personally. A phrase commonly used by negotiation experts Robert Fisher and William Ura is to separate the people from the problem. Now, instead of taking the situation personally, try to start building a relationship and talking about what level of fee your client is looking for. What will it take to close the deal? If you have provided fees of, let's say, $600,000 and they've asked you to sharpen your pencil, what are they looking for? A 5% discount, a 10% discount? Are you even in the same ballpark? If they only want to pay half of the figure listed in your proposal, it's good to know this as soon as possible. Secondly, once you have confirmed what they are looking for with regards to the level of fee, before agreeing to any concessions, you should understand their other interests. Is the client able to finalize the deal, or does he/she have to report to somebody else? Does the client want to address anything else? Is the client able to accept the expense cost, the payment terms, the hourly charge-out rates, the contractual terms? You need to understand as much as possible about their interests. After all, your interests are already written down in the fee proposal. And thirdly, once you understand their interests, you can suggest options that meet both your and their requirements. Now, this is commonly known as inventing options for mutual gain. This may be something like agreeing a 10% discount on the headline fee on the basis that the mobilization payment is made within 24 hours, or reducing the fee on the basis that there is an equal reduction in scope. Now, once you have agreed on an issue, make sure you capture the agreement in writing. This is perhaps the most important part. Do not let the excitement of finishing the meeting stop you from confirming the agreement in writing. As soon as people leave the room, their understanding of what was agreed is never quite the same again. If you do not take action and capture the agreement in writing at the meeting, you will end up, more often than not, renegotiating the deal. So in summary, there are several small actions architects can take to increase their opportunities to win new work and improve their negotiation skills. Firstly, write an effective and thorough fee proposal that allows for negotiations. Secondly, understand the power of anchoring. Anchoring is your friend, so use it to your advantage. Thirdly, recognize when you may be negotiating against yourself. Fourthly, during any negotiation meeting, phone call or conversation, build a relationship with your client, understand their interests, and look for options that benefit both parties. And finally, if you are able to agree terms, capture the agreement in writing as soon as possible. So during this short video, we've touched on a couple of the negotiation tactics. If you are involved in fee negotiations of any kind, then I would strongly recommend doing your homework and learning as much about it as possible. I'd also suggest reading the Architect's Guide to Negotiations, where you can learn about all 12 negotiation tactics. Incidentally, that book also discusses a winning negotiation strategy developed by one of the world's leading academic institutions called Principled Negotiation. To download your copy, go to www.architectsguidetonegotiations.com. Now, thank you very much for watching episode 7, and good luck with your future negotiations. If you'd like further assistance with your negotiations, please do not hesitate to contact us. We will be rolling out our coaching program in the second quarter of 2011, and we'll be accepting direct appointments in some locations later this year. Next week, we are going to be talking about pricing strategies, so I hope you can join us then. Please keep sending us your comments and questions. We love to hear from you. Bye for now.